Hi there. Right, don't be afraid to ask questions if there's anything you're not sure about, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions just to help me understand um, the level of knowledge here. Just so you know, I do a few things. I'm a miner of cryptocurrencies. Do you put your hand up if you understand what mining is? Okay, so a few of you don't. I'm a writer. I have a podcast. I have one of the top 3 podcasts on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And I also am an advisor for a fund out in Los Angeles on investing in cryptocurrencies. So I've got various levels of knowledge and experience in this area. And it's something that obviously a lot of people have become very interested in over the last year, usually because the price is going up. But there's lots of other really interesting things. So I was asked to come down here and present on why retail might need it. So just a couple of questions first. Can you put your hand up if you own any Bitcoin? Higher hand so I can see. So there's a few of you. Put your hands up if you own any Ethereum. Put your hands up if you wish you'd bought Bitcoin about 4 years ago. So there's a few of you. Right, okay. So why do retailers need to care about... Well, no, actually, one more question. Who thinks it's all nonsense? And don't be afraid to put your hands up. You think it's all made up internet money, it's absolute nonsense. Couple of people. So we've got a couple of skeptics. Right, okay, that's not too bad. Okay, so there are a number of myths around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and one of the biggest problems we have is price. We have volatile pricing, and this kind of can attract people into what cryptocurrencies are, but also scare them off. And there's a number of different rebuttals that come against cryptocurrencies. The first one being that there is no intrinsic value in a cryptocurrency, such as Bitcoin. Secondly, that it's only used by drug dealers and criminals, that it's a get-rich-quick scheme and it's all a bubble and it's about to explode. Yet today it will cost you around £5,000 to buy one of these Bitcoins. So rather than talk about why Bitcoin and crypto is important for retail, I think it's important to talk about why it's important to everyone. And there's 2 specific currencies that I think are going to become increasingly more important to the work of all of us, our lives, but also retail. That is Bitcoin, and there's another one called Monero. Hands up if you heard of Monero? Fantastic, great. Okay, so I'm going to, in the very short amount of time, trying to explain to you the 2 primary reasons these are going to become increasingly more important, and it really comes down to 2 things. The first one is sound money. So I'm going to do a very quick explanation of the economics of cryptocurrencies and why they're so important, and then I'm going to talk to you about privacy. And I'm going to get through as much as I can, as quickly as I can, so hopefully if you've got some questions, I can answer them. So, I'm going to talk about sound money first. So, a lot of people talk about going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And usually when you first get involved in crypto, you hear about this monetary thing that you can buy, and you can transfer, and it seems kind of cool. But most of people think of it like a virtual currency. Like when people on World of Warcraft buying some potion or something, it's just a way of transferring value. But the deeper you go into investigating, looking into Bitcoin and crypto, you end up looking at subjects such as Austrian economics, libertarian movements, and the soundness of and importance of hard money. So this is a very, very interesting chart. This is based up to 2016, the bond market. So you probably have all heard of increasing debt in the US, something like 20 trillion or something. So global debt now sits at, well, it's actually above this, over 325% of GDP. The problem with this is that governments constantly need to keep printing money. And the way they print money is they issue bonds. If the bonds keep growing and we have too much inflation, we have something called a bond crash. And that leads to monetary deflation. Bitcoin is built on the premise of something called sound money, which is no inflation. Who knows how many Bitcoins there can ever be? How many? I don't know what you said there because of this, actually. 21 million. I'll say that. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. It is deflationary by nature. You cannot print more Bitcoins, which means it's hard to sound money. The problem you have with the money that you have yourselves is that governments print money when they need money. This increases the money supply. We've all seen this in Venezuela recently. This increases inflation, which is in turn reduces the value of your money, and disincentivize savings. And the reason this is important right now, you're probably thinking, what's the connection between this and retail and somebody buying like a TV online or something like that? That Bitcoin has created a hedge against government inflationary monetary policy. So Bitcoin now at £5,000 today, when it was about 3 pence when it first arrived. It has intrinsic value because the people buying it perceive it to have intrinsic value. Therefore, increasingly people are moving to use Bitcoin, and increasingly it's going to be considered a more sound form of money than fiat money. So a perfect example of that is I've put up here, Bitcoin isn't for anyone in this room just now. It really is just a bit of fun for people like us. But in countries like Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Iran and Turkey, especially Venezuela though, Bitcoin has been a lifesaver. So the problem you have in Venezuela is that increasingly, has anyone been tracking Venezuela and inflation? Something like 1,000,000% this year. So Bitcoin is a use case in Venezuela where people, as they're getting paid, they're instantly converting their bolivar into the local bolivar into Bitcoin. And then what they're doing is, as and when they need money, they're transferring that back into the bolivar. Because what people invariably find is they get paid on one day, within 2 or 3 days their money's absolutely worthless. Okay? Following me? Okay, so I'm going to jump forward. This, you can't see this very well, but this is a whole truck of Venezuelan money that's being thrown out, absolutely thrown out into the garbage tips because it has no value anymore. Because of a hyperinflation in the country, the money's become completely valueless. So what we're tending to find is that there are a number of people who study Austrian economics and study sound money who are seeing a threat of a bond crash that's going to potentially hit Western nations in the next how many years? It could be 2, 5, 10 years. They are hedging their bets by buying Bitcoin. Okay? So I'm going to explain to you why Bitcoin itself, in nothing intrinsically has value, but why people value it as a currency. So, some of you will have heard of this. Firstly, it's decentralized. So what that means is Bitcoin is a ledger of transactions, and it appears on thousands of computers around the world. I've got one at home, I keep a copy, and what that means is nobody can switch Bitcoin off. Everyone has an identical record of the ledgers of what you have, or what you have, what I have on it. Okay? When China banned Bitcoin, it didn't stop Bitcoin existing because it exists on that ledger. So it's decentralized, nobody controls it, nobody can change the monetary policy, nobody can create inflation. It's completely decentralized where money has been separated from state. Secondly, it's scarce. Oh, I haven't changed the icon, I've still got a spliff up there. It's scarce. So what it means by scarce is that it's hard to find. So the inventor of Bitcoin, the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto, he wanted it to be like gold. So originally, like years ago, we were all on the gold standard. You couldn't print more money than gold you had in your country because gold is hard to get, okay? Bitcoin itself is also hard to get. It's scarce. There will only be 21 million. Mining them's really hard. I've got like 120 machines in Washington, and I mine about 2 Bitcoin a month, of which I lose about 1.5 Bitcoin to the cost to produce, okay? It's very expensive to produce. You can't just print it. So all these other cryptocurrencies you'll hear about, you might hear about like, I don't know, Dash and Litecoin and think, oh, they're interesting, I should buy them too. They are very similar to government fiat money and they're easy to produce. And the last is secure. Does anyone know what the cost would be to create one fake transaction on the Bitcoin network? Okay, it would be 51% of the value of the network. So today that's around $59 billion to create one fake transaction. Okay. Some of the important properties of Bitcoin, which that you might not be aware of, is censorship resistance. That means you can send it to anyone without anyone questioning it. So if you ever go to the bank, I went recently, I had to get some money out for my plumber, £2,000, they asked me what the money's for, okay? WikiLeaks were blocked from taking donations from MasterCard. WikiLeaks moved to Bitcoin because it's censorship resistance. I can send anyone here with a Bitcoin address, any amount of Bitcoin, and nobody can stop that. Very important part. It's also immutable, which means you can't change the record of the database, of the ledger. Once it's happened, it can't be changed. If I send you a Bitcoin, nobody can change that. It's there and exists on the ledger forever. Its benefits over gold is that it's highly divisible. So with gold, if you have a lump of gold, which is seen as sound money or hard money, I want to send you some like small amount of gold, I've got to chop it up. With Bitcoin, I can go up to 8 decimal places and send it to you. And also, it's frictionless, so it's really smooth and easy to use. So I'm trying to give you like 18 months of lessons in about 10 minutes. So that's really important. Bitcoin's not going away. You're going to increasingly see merchants saying they're going to be accepting it, and merchants explain, and people buying it and using it, and governments using it to send money. The second important factor of cryptocurrencies is privacy. So this is a quote from David Chaum. He's the father of cryptocurrencies. He said, "Privacy is tied to human potential, an important aspect of democracy." So we all take privacy. Some people take it important. Who here says privacy is important? Thinks privacy is important? Hands up. Right. Keep your hand up if you have a Facebook account. So you think it's important, but you give all your data out to Facebook, who sell it or do what they want with it. So I think most of us care about privacy when maybe we're engaged in illicit or taboo acts, but probably don't take privacy as important as we should be. But it is tied to human potential, because when the eyes are on us, we tend to operate in a different way. So let's talk about the evolution of money. Originally started the barter. So if I was a shoemaker, and I don't know, you were a house builder, I wanted you to build a house and I wanted a pair of shoes, we'd do a swap, but really you don't want 2,000 pairs of shoes at the same time, hence why cash was invented. Cash became the exchange that avoided the barter system. From there, we've had technology advancements that's given us wire transfers. We then had credit cards, we then moved to PayPal to save actually logging our credit cards, we then have Venmo. So all this is really great, but one of the problems with all of these is every one of these decreases our privacy, because the advancements in technology now give governments and agencies more information about what we're doing. I'll tell you another really interesting example, because it only happened yesterday. So on my podcast, I took my first advertiser this week. It's from a company in America, and I got paid, and they're called BTC Inc. I received the payment, and the next day when I logged into my bank account, and this was Lloyd's, they were asking me for who my employer was and what my monthly salary is. So all the banks are tied into what's happening with Bitcoin at the moment. So increasingly we're seeing our lives being tracked, what goes into our banks being tracked, what comes out of our banks being tracked, what we're spending. And this leads to a number of privacy problems. We have governments tracking us. We have targeted advertising. Put your hands up if you like targeted advertising. Nobody likes targeted advertising. Yet, if you go on, I don't know, say you're on Curry's website looking at TV, then you've got those adverts, these TVs following you around everywhere. It's annoying. Some of us like to make illegal purchases. Okay, so sadly my mum was dying of cancer 2 years ago, and we wanted to get her cannabis oil, right? Any of the research I did to where to buy that online will be tracked. By the way, even in privacy mode isn't hiding your activity you're doing online. All that privacy mode is hiding it from your history, so your partner doesn't find out what you're looking at. Everything you do is still being tracked. So all my activity to find cannabis oil was tracked. Okay? Taboo purchases. We all have our little taboo vices in life. Personal income is tracked. Everything we do is tracked. Also, when you're using money online, it can be stolen. Massive decreases in privacy. This is why crypto is important. This is why crypto use is important. Overstock took 5 million in payments last year from Bitcoin. Monero is probably one of the fastest growing cryptocurrencies for people to be paying with online. And there's a bunch of benefits to retailers, okay? So if retailers are to accept cryptocurrencies, they are going to firstly get new customers, because obviously they're exposed to the potential of new people who only like to pay in cryptocurrencies. You get instant settlement. It takes probably less than an hour for a transaction from here. So I'll give you another great example. When I bought my miners from China, I bought, the last batch I bought was 110 Dragon Mints. It was a $250,000 purchase. It was sent using cryptocurrency. The transaction was approved in 9 minutes. It was really scary 9 minutes, but it's approved in 9 minutes. I can't actually think of how I would send $250,000 to China using the banking system. You also have lower fees. You have much lower fees. The reason you have lower fees is we don't have Visa or MasterCard taking a small percentage. The only percentage comes from the miners. So I think that $250,000 transaction had a fee of around 30 cents. Not bad, right? You're going to have an inevitable buy-in. So a long time, retailers took a while to adopt PayPal. Everyone thought it was like they didn't need it. People would just pay with their credit cards, and that's become easier, and you all see pay with PayPal. You're going to increasingly see pay with Bitcoin or pay with cryptocurrencies. And lastly, probably the best thing for retailers is there's no chargeback fraud with cryptocurrencies, because there's no chargeback mechanism within it. Okay? God, I raced through that. Sorry, usually when I give these presentations, there's inevitably loads of questions. People find this area interesting, so yeah, shout me any questions you have.
Any questions you've got about Bitcoin? Now is your time to ask them. We have one. Oh, we have up there.
How does it work?
Okay. What is your take on the big hacks that's been happening to some of the BC exchanges?
Well, I mean, what do you mean with my take on it? It's awful when it happens. I feel sorry for everyone who does. But one of the first rules of crypto is you don't leave your money on an exchange. You know, the first thing you do is you buy a ledger or a Trezor, and you manage. You know, this is self-sovereignty. This is the one big risk with cryptocurrencies is you manage your own money. If you lose it, it's gone. But yeah. I think it's but I think we're increasingly going to see a move to decentralized exchanges where you won't be holding crypto on the exchange anyway. And if you are going to hold an exchange, the only one I would do it with is Coinbase, whose OPSEC is pretty damn cool.
Okay, thank you.
I used to say, yeah, I wish. No, I might have met him. I interviewed someone called Greg Wright, who is one of the definite candidates to be Satoshi Nakamoto.
Next one.
Is crypto sustainable? Yeah, so most of the sustainability things has been debunked. So the majority of the growth in power to supply let me explain what this question is about.
Yeah, please do.
The way the Bitcoin network is maintained is through something called mining. Okay, so every 10 minutes a block is created. All these machines around the world are trying to solve an algorithm to be the first to solve it, which cryptographically seals the block. But in doing so, they're competing. If they close the block, they get 12.5 Bitcoins, which is worth around $100,000 now. So, you know, it's highly worth it. But in doing so, it uses up a lot of power. As I've said, my power bill every month for my couple hundred machines is about $20,000. So, you know, a lot of money's going in. A lot of the people who attack this, and a lot of the arguments are coming from a different cryptocurrency group called Ripple, who don't use a different consensus mechanism. They say that this is terrible for the planet, it's terrible for the environment, but actually most of it's been debunked because the majority of new powers coming online for crypto is clean power because it's the cheapest. So if you want to run a whole bunch of miners, you don't really want to be in a data center in Texas. You want to be in Greenland or Iceland. So most of these big ASIC farms are starting to be built in green farms. So that's mainly debunked. Either way, it uses vastly less power than gold production, and I think what is being used now is a price worth paying for creating and securing the most sound, hard money on the planet. Okay.
Got 3 more questions.
Does crypto work?
2 minutes.
Does crypto work to solve AML? I mean, look, pretty much every cryptocurrency business now has to have a KYC AML policy in place, even Shapeshift. So Shapeshift was an anonymous cryptocurrency exchange whereby you could swap one crypto for another, started by a guy called Eric Voorhees, who's like one of the founding kind of libertarians of Bitcoin, and everyone loves him. They have now just implemented optional accounts, which will soon be compulsory accounts. Pretty much any registered centralized business in any westernized nation has to now have a KYC AML policy in place. I'm not sure if that's actually that question you're asking me, but I don't know what you mean by solve anti-money laundering. Does it solve it? I mean, it came out this week. I can't remember the government agency. One of the government agencies says criminals and terrorist gangs aren't really using cryptocurrencies. I think it was for money laundering. One of the main reasons, especially Bitcoin, is it's not anonymous. It's pseudo-anonymous, which means if I gave you a Bitcoin now, no one would know. But if you want to transfer them to pounds, you have to use an on-ramp or an off-ramp, which means you have to give your identity over. So it's pseudo-anonymous. There's a company called Chainlink who can pretty much track track any Bitcoin through the entire ecosystem and find where it started from and where it ended. So, yeah, if you were going to use Bitcoin for any form of high-level criminal activity, you're probably a bit of an idiot. I'd be using Monero for that anyway.
And next one.
Where should I invest my £100 pocket money today? Oh, good question. Well, I don't give financial advice, so I wouldn't tell you to put it anywhere. But if you were thinking to get into cryptocurrencies, I think it's if you track the price of Bitcoin over the last 9 years, its trajectory towards six-figure value per coin is there. I would suggest it's not a bad idea to hedge any investment along any side other investment with a bit of Bitcoin. My only suggestion is ignore the volatility and put it away for 10 years, okay, and forget the ups and downs. I wouldn't buy anything else. Pretty much everything outside of Bitcoin and Monero is a shitcoin, it's printed money, it's a waste of time. Anyone who tells you any different is a lie. It's all based on Keynesian economics where production equals value, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Why are there so many cryptocurrencies? Because there are so many charlatans. Everybody sees them. So this is the point of gold. This is why Bitcoin is like gold. Despite the many attempts of alchemists, you cannot create gold out of thin air, right? Gold exists. The thing about gold is production is really hard. You've all seen those documentaries where people are going to the bottom of the ocean and going in rivers. It's really hard to produce, which is why gold holds value. All other metals don't hold value because they're really easy to produce. Bitcoin is hard to produce, okay? Anyone can go and print another and create. I can fork Bitcoin tomorrow and create Peatcoin. It has no value because it was easy to produce. So there are lots of charlatans trying to make money. On a long enough trajectory, Bitcoin has been and probably will be the only one that survives.
Brilliant. On that note, Peter, thank you very much indeed.
If anyone's got any further questions,
well done.
come and grab me. Thank you.
Great stuff.